Well, hello again, and welcome back to Phase Politics. That is Isaac Hayes, for those of you who don't know, from the Shaft soundtrack. And the name of the song is Soulsville. And we're going to talk tonight about something. I'm going to kind of try to clear up something that a lot I thought had been cleared up. And that is my position on Django. And it became troubling because I had somebody to call me up and to tell me that they had seen my review of Django and they didn't understand how I could say it was a good movie. And I had to explain, and they went into this thing about how it demeaned black folks and yada, yada, yada. And I had to explain to them one thing. It was a movie. It was a fictionalized drama, whatever you want to call it, about somebody's opinion about something. And if you search Django, you'll find that there was actually a movie called Django. And it kind of followed the same lines, but it didn't have the slave aspect into it. And then I asked this person this question. I said, well, what are you going to do to have a conversation about the system of slavery and its impact not only on black people in this country, but its impact on African people throughout the world and its impact on the continent of Africa? Because if you really follow slavery, slavery is what actually led to the colonization of the entire continent of Africa. And they were sort of at a puzzle. And then it dawned on me. We have got to stop allowing people to take us to a place we don't need to be. We need to stop trying to take these fictionalized things like these reality shows and try to make them apply to our real life. Instead, we need to be talking very seriously about how do we resolve the issues within our community. Now, if you've listened on some of these programs, you've heard Marvin Gaye doing What's Going On from that album, which was in the 1970s. You're now hearing Isaac Hayes in the background doing Soulsville, which talks about the plight of the black man. It's from Shaft, which was done in 1970. I think Shaft was 72, it was 72, 73. And these things are still relevant right now. So it appears to me that instead of being worried about Quentin Tarantino and his position, we need to be talking about what happened every day, what goes on every day in black, brown, and red and yellow communities across this nation, and then to expand expand the conversation to what is going on in the world to people of indigenous backgrounds. Let me give you an example. In Costa Rica and in other countries in Central America, people are beginning to complain because development, most of it by multinational corporations, is going into areas where the poor live, and the land is being taken away from them. I believe it's Ethiopia. That's now building this massive dam, if this sounds familiar, that's going to control the water source, and you have people, mainly poor people, who are concerned about it. Everywhere you look in the world, the land of the poor is being taken, and these, quote, gentrification projects are coming up. So we're slowly moving into that new world order. And yet and still we want to sit up and argue about something that's fictitious such as Django instead of dealing with the real world issue. Until we sit down and have a serious conversation about the serious issues that are impacting communities throughout the world, we will continue to find ourselves fascinated by and arguing about something that's not real. That's just like sitting up, to me, arguing about Django and the merits of Django is like sitting up arguing about whether Superman could fly. Superman couldn't fly because Superman wasn't real. So I will conclude by saying this. Forget about whether Django correctly depicted the position of slaves and whether they used the N word too much. And say this. There was a time on the face of this earth when a group of people from several European nations got together, went into Africa, and at first stole over 100 million Africans, of which 20 million died before they even reached their first destination. They died in the Atlantic. Then they separated these people, brought them to the United States, worked them, raped them, murdered them, beat them, did not pay them, continues to have a legacy of discrimination against these people. And that is the issue. That is what needs to be put on the table. How do we resolve that issue? The second part of that conversation needs to be, how do we pay Africa back? How do these countries pay Africa back for the damage that they have done to that continent? That's the only thing that needs to be discussed. And then lastly, the only question that really needs to be asked to me is, how can one human being do something as vicious and as cruel and as unthinkable as to take them and enslave them and never think that there was anything wrong with their behavior? So that is my position on this foolishness about this movie, because it's just that. People, as we always say, get a life. Step into the real world. Now, with that said, you know you got the power. You know you can use your power, you can abuse your power, or you can fear your power. But you have power. So, everyone, remember, power concedes nothing without a demand, and until you make that demand, power will give up nothing.